Hello, everyone. It is February 17th for our monthly Highlands Capital Campaign update. Our last video update was January 13th. We have a lot of good, important information to share today, so let's jump right in. First order of business is our petition for conditional rezoning. Since our last update, we've had a couple of meetings. On January 22nd, the Town Planning Board recommended our conditional rezoning petition to the Town Board of Commissioners. And the only concern they had, and it's really nothing much of a concern, is that of the tree line between us and the library next door. And so let me just show you, I'm sharing my screen here. So this is our proposed parking lot, new parking lot of 25 spaces. And their only concern was that you'd be able to see right through this area in particular. And so they recommended, if preserving some sort of tree line between us and the library, so it's not just one continuous open space, if we need to remove the 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, that we're able to do so. So that was the recommendation. This issue also came up earlier this week on February 13th, I believe, when we went before the Town Board of Commissioners. They brought up the similar issue. And so they scheduled a public hearing for our conditional rezoning for March 21st. When we anticipate this to be finalized, and we trust that we will be conditionally rezoned, so we're hopeful in that regard. But as to the details of those 4 parking spaces, we'll see. We'll be doing a little bit of work in between now and then to look at all of our options, and we'll see what the board has to say on the 21st of next month. So that all is going quite well. The other important, very important update is that earlier this past week, also the diocese approved our being able to enter into the final stage of documents, architectural documents called construction documents. And I'd like to share with you again, this is something I haven't shared with you before, something that we've worked with though. This is the capital campaign team's roadmap. So if you have a capital campaign, this is something relatively new the diocese has put together. It's a precise roadmap as to the whole process. And so in order to keep these major projects collaborative between a parish and the diocese, we have a series of meetings. We work together. We work through this roadmap. So we're not going to go through all of this, but I just want to give you a bird's eye view of what it all entails, starting with the preliminary phase, which we did 2 years ago. Then we get permission to move into a schematic phase. You start getting architectural renderings, et cetera. Start looking at financials and what would be possible. And then the area where we've been for quite a while was the design development phase. And so that's where the architects do a lot of the heavy lifting on actually designing the building. We've been there for quite a while. And so the big news is that we had our meeting with the diocese, having looked at the financials, looked at the designs, et cetera, and they granted us permission to move forward into construction documents. And so this would be the last phase for the architects. And so these would be the documents handed over, for instance, to the contractor. And so they'll be hard at work these next months doing that. Towards the end of that process, we'll be doing another repricing exercise to see where exactly we are with prices. And then we will get a final guarantor, our final contractor guaranteed maximum price to see what our final number will truly be. We will seek permission from the diocese to move forward. And if that is green lit, we go into construction. So that's a little bit of where we've been, where we are now, and where we hope to be going. What else do we have here? So that's very exciting. The financial update. So just to review, and this has been a lot of going on here, a lot of meetings, a lot of information. Our overall budget is $11.6 million. We have a $9.4 million construction budget, and baked into that are contingencies. So a pretty hefty amount of contingencies in the 6 figures in case something goes awry or whatever the case may be. We're also financing 3.5 million from the diocese, which acts as its own bank. We secured months and months ago a 15-year loan. Not that we will need 15 years by any means, but in order to lower those monthly payments, we're anticipating around a 5.5% interest rate, but that will become fixed at the end of construction. And after that, the diocese will offer a one-time adjustment downward if interest rates are better. And so at any rate, that's what we can anticipate. So we'll begin a debt reduction campaign sometime, after this campaign concludes next year, most likely. And as new folks move into the area, I certainly plan to engage them in the project and hopefully to begin to retire this debt sooner rather than later. Other good news is that we're doing very well with monies coming in through pledges. We're actually ahead of schedule, and we have brought in over $5 million. So that's money in the bank, something to be celebrated. So things are moving very well as regards to that. Now, let's take a look at costs and just where things have been, where things are, et cetera. If you've ever been part of a big project, it probably started out with a lot of excitement. Then you hit a low point and you're wondering, how can this move forward? And then finally, somehow you find a path forward and you go. And essentially that's been the last several months. It's been quite a roller coaster ride. And so that began with in early December, after the 50% mark of design development, we were doing repricing. And our general contractor, who's been working with us, Edifice, they've been doing this this cost analysis. And so in early December, they came to us with wildly inflated prices. And but we were also concerned that it was rather incomplete. So by wildly inflated, I'm talking like 5 million over budget, and like eye-opening moment. But they were also estimating around the time of the holidays, and we just got the sense they weren't getting enough numbers, not enough subs were calling them back, et cetera. And so we had them do some more work. In the meantime, design development hit 100%, and so they were crunching those numbers. And so we met again in early January, and still they were like 5 million over budget. And this translates into something like 1,500 a square foot. And so, this is the same contractor had done great work in the diocese before. And last May, they'd given us some accurate cost estimation numbers because we had a second opinion on that. There wasn't any one single issue with this, just sort of anything and everything, maybe just, well, whatever. But we pushed back. We said there's no way these can be the true numbers. And so we really got all hands on deck to consider all aspects of value engineering and also just other cost savings, et cetera. And so we gave that a few weeks. In late January, we met again. And so the general contractor presented the results of these cost reduction exercises. And it was good news and bad news. I think it's more good news. The good news is that they really got it down to spitting distance from our budget, like around 300,000. And so that was great because we were 5 million over. But the bad news side of it was just what they were doing to get there in terms of simplifying the building. And we'll look at that in more detail. But just I thought it was just too much, in kind of simplifying the building. But the good news with that is that would all be temporary. That everything that we've designed thus far could be added back at a later date. So, like I said, an admixture of good news and bad news. So let's take a look at what we're considering here in terms of these images. So we've seen this image, for instance, plenty. And so this definitely represents the final goal and project. And I would have been really surprised if we could have gotten every last thing in this first phase. But knowing Highlands and capacity of Highlands, you never know. But this is definitely the final goal. And so not everything was in this scope, but it's certainly always been my goal to have a very solid, at the very least, a very solid foundation, a starting point to be able to do this, even if it takes some time and we have to wait as more monies come in. And that's because, you know, truly impressive and inspiring buildings, they take time to build. Those buildings that you go to visit when you go to Europe or wherever, I mean, these are the buildings that took, you know, a lot of time, you know, whereas in America, we're used to, you know, a house being built in 18 months or whatever it is, and down to the last, you know, doorknob or whatever. And so at any rate, I definitely think we're going to be able to get here, and it'll just be interesting to see how far we can get this first phase. So at the design development level, what we had been designing, we knew we couldn't get all of this. We just didn't have the money, but we were setting it up for it. So for instance, like in these side chapels, like all the artwork and marbleized wall there, and the altars and the rail and the coffered ceilings and the grills on the windows, those were going to be marked for a later add-on. The ceiling art, definitely, even though that wouldn't be the final bit of ceiling art. What would be another example? Be the flooring. So, I mean, this would be a very impressive, you know, marble floor, and something I think we can do, but you know, it's going to take some time. So what we have planned is something much more simple, plain, still dignified, and with the designs such that this can be added as monies come in. Trying to think what else. But what was in scope was a lot of what you see. The columns, these what appear to be flat pillars, and just some of the ornamentation around that, these larger columns, definitely much of the sanctuary furniture, the confessional, the baptistry, you know, these things that will definitely be needed. And so what the reductions by the general contractor was calling for was really simplifying a lot of this mill work. I mean, this stuff would all be a later add-on, the small columns, the larger columns. And so this would just be more, you know, drywall, you know, for the time being, et cetera. This is sort of the things that they were thinking about. But there were also other things you just don't see in terms of mechanical or whatever, but also kind of stick with what we're able to see here. The other big thing, the other big savings, if I can get out of this, there we go, was going to be the exterior, in particular, the front facade. So, of course, we've been anticipating this front facade. Well, you know, with the stonework and everything, it's a very expensive feature, this part that kind of peels away from the rest of the building. And so one of the major cost-saving options that is on the table is that to have this temporarily removed, such that the front facade temporarily looks like one of the other side facades. So you can kind of get a little glimpse here, or and I don't have a color rendering, but I do have this. So this is the back of the church, you know, which would more closely mirror the front of the church. So something like that, but the front curved facade could be added later. So and they're telling us that that was like a $1.6 million aspect of this building. So those are just some of the images there. Let's see where we are. And okay, but that's what the general contractor is saying, and sort of a worst case scenario. We still don't think that this is passing the smell test. With all those cost reductions, we're still looking at a $1,200 per square foot build, and that's with a very simplified building. And we just don't think it passes the smell test. Our very experienced construction committee you know, has been looking at this as well, several members of which do local work, and they understand there's a premium in Highlands, but not to this extent. So we're confident these numbers really are inflated, perhaps to the tune of 15 or even 20%. We'll see. They could be precisely right. We'll know in the coming months. But I'm rather confident that the type of cuts that the general contractor is saying, we're not going to see all those cuts. But we'll see. But the worst case scenario is that guess what? We're still able to move forward, even with a simpler design that could still receive everything that we have envisioned, but at a later date. And so either way, we have a path forward. And the other bit of good news is that we're not considering narrowing the building. We were considering that as a way to reduce square footage, but we just came to the conclusion it's just not worth it. There'll be other ways forward. So we're not going to be changing the footprint, and I see a way forward. So moving forward, and these suggestions came by means of the construction committee. We're going to start looking at other general contractors. And so I've engaged another one that has done good work and locally. So I trust that they have a better knowledge of local subs, whereas, Edifice is out of Charlotte. They've done great work, but that may be a contributing factor, the fact that they're so far away, et cetera. So we're going to be looking at other GCs, and if they're coming in with better numbers, then we'll look to do business with them. Edifice still wants this job, and so I trust they're still going to be doing what they can to provide competitive numbers. So, but at any rate, just we'll be looking around, as it were. Also, we are moving forward with the construction documents such that we're not going to lose any more time. We'll get to timing here in a second. So there's still a sense of movement, momentum moving forward. And we are going to continue the construction documents as we were planning in the design development phase. So as is, trusting that, again, these numbers are inflated and we need to be ready to have these features. So we're going to move forward with our designs as we have planned, but we will also have in construction documents what are called alternates. So for instance, on the front facade, if that's something we can't afford now, well, we'll have the alternate such that there's a dignified temporary facade and they will be ready to go either way, depending on where we are financially in the coming months. So on the issue of timing, last video update mid-January, I said we were paused as we were trying to get back to budget. Well, we are back to budget. We have found a way forward, and so things are moving forward. And even though we were paused for a couple of months, the architects, they were planning on completing construction documents May 1st. They're now planning to complete them by May 31st. So that's only a loss of a month. Now, of course, anything can happen. They can miss that deadline. We will see, but they will be pushing for May 31st completion. But then we have a few things thereafter, another cost review, permission from the diocese to move forward, et cetera. So we're talking about a Labor Day start, but I'm looking into options to begin even earlier, because you can do that land work, prep work, demolishing of the offices earlier. So I would love to see this stuff moving at the height of season. We will see. Anything can happen, and hopefully I'll have my sanity by the end of this. So in conclusion, it has been quite a whirlwind the last couple of months, but I am confident we have found a way forward. We really hit a pivotal point. I want to thank many people who've been involved thus far, construction committee and their input, our pastoral council and their input on how to communicate these things, and the rest of the team members from the diocese, et cetera. And so we're moving forward. Hopefully March 21st, the conditional rezoning will be completed. And so that will be resolved. And next couple of months, we'll have more clarity to come, pricing, et cetera. We'll be prioritizing what we want to see in the building, in this phase, for instance, as pricing comes in, et cetera. So at any rate, again, thank you for your generosity and support. Please continue to pray for this project, for all the team members that are working hard on it, and for me as well. So I will give you another update probably in March, and we'll see you then. God bless.